How do you stay calm in a world that never stops shouting at you? How do you protect your peace when your phone vibrates every 10 minutes? When news headlines compete for your fear? When opinions, expectations, and comparisons follow you everywhere? And more importantly, how do you keep your mind quiet when everything around you is loud? A noisy world is not just about sound. It's about urgency. It's about pressure. It's about emotional triggers hiding in ordinary moments. And one message can ruin your focus. One comment can replay in your head for hours. One mistake can spiral into self-doubt. The world is loud. But here is the truth most people never learn. Noise is external. Chaos is internal. And internal chaos is optional. I didn't always believe that. A few years ago, someone very close to me, my older cousin, went through one of the most stressful periods of his life. He had just started a new job in a demanding corporate environment in Chicago. Long hours, the constant evaluation, subtle competition, endless emails. He would come home exhausted, but not physically, mentally. He couldn't turn it off. Even during dinner, his mind was replaying conversations. What did my boss mean by that? Did I sound confident? What if I lose this position? He was reacting to everything: notifications, feedback, tone shifts, silences in meetings. One night he said something I'll never forget. I feel like my mind doesn't belong to me anymore. That sentence stayed with me. Because that's what noise does. It steals ownership, and the world will always be noisy. Deadlines won't disappear. People won't suddenly become calm. Social media won't slow down. But what changed for him wasn't the environment. It was his response. He started practicing something small, almost invisible. He stopped reacting immediately. Before replying to emails, he paused. Before defending himself, he paused. Before assuming the worst, he paused. 3 seconds, sometimes 5. It felt unnatural at first, even uncomfortable. But over time, that space changed everything. He told me later, I realized I don't have to attend every emotional reaction my brain invites me to. That sentence is the foundation of this entire audiobook. Calm is not the absence of stress. Calm is control over your reaction to stress. And that control doesn't come from personality. It comes from training. Because here's something most people misunderstand. Being calm does not mean being passive. Being quiet does not mean being weak. And emotional control does not mean emotional suppression. It means leadership. Self-leadership. Real power is not loud. It doesn't rush. It doesn't panic. It doesn't explode. Real power chooses. In the next hour, we're not going to talk about ignoring your feelings. We're not going to talk about pretending everything is fine. And we're definitely not going to talk about becoming emotionless. We're going to talk about something far more powerful. Building a quiet mind. A mind that observes before reacting. A mind that filters before absorbing. A mind that chooses before responding. Because when your mind becomes quieter, your decisions become clearer, your emotions become lighter, your presence becomes stronger, and something subtle begins to shift. You stop being controlled by noise, and you start controlling yourself. So let me ask you one more question before we begin. When was the last time you paused before reacting? Not because you were afraid, but because you were strong enough to choose calm. If that pause feels rare, good. That means this journey matters. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The world is loud. Your mind doesn't have to be. The world has never been louder, not just in sound, in information, in urgency, in expectation. You wake up and before your feet touch the floor, your mind is already reacting. Notifications, news alerts, messages, deadlines, other people's moods, other people's opinions. Your nervous system doesn't know the difference between a real physical threat and a sharp email from your boss. It just reacts. So that is the first thing you must understand. You are not weak. You are overstimulated. A noisy world trains reactive minds. But here is the deeper truth. The noise outside does not automatically create noise inside. There is a gap, and that gap is power. Most people never notice it because they move too fast. Reaction feels natural, immediate, automatic. Someone criticizes you, you defend. Someone ignores you, you assume. Someone succeeds, you compare. Someone disagrees, you escalate. The world moves, you react. But a quiet mind moves differently. It observes first. I once watched this transformation happen in someone very close to me. During one of the most demanding seasons of his life, my cousin felt like everything required a response. Every email was urgent, every comment had hidden meaning, every silence felt suspicious. He was exhausted, not because of work alone, but because his mind never stopped interpreting. If someone replied with one sentence instead of 3, he read rejection. If a meeting ended quickly, he assumed dissatisfaction. If feedback was neutral, he imagined criticism. Nothing dramatic was happening, but inside his head, everything was. That is how noise multiplies. Noise is rarely just sound. It is interpretation, it is assumption, it is internal narration. And most of us narrate aggressively. We turn neutral events into negative stories. We turn uncertainty into danger. We turn small moments into identity threats. The mind fills gaps quickly. A quiet mind fills them slowly. This is the difference. The world will always move fast. A quiet mind moves deliberately. There is a principle in psychology that explains something powerful. Events do not create emotions on their own. Interpretation does. 2 people receive the same feedback. One thinks, I'm failing. The other thinks, this helps me improve. Same event, different meaning, different emotional outcome. The loud mind amplifies, while the quiet mind evaluates. And evaluation requires space. That space might only be 2 seconds before replying. It might be 1 deep breath before speaking. It might be asking yourself, is this true, or am I assuming? But in that space, something shifts. Without space, emotion becomes command. With space, emotion becomes information. Information can be processed. Commands feel urgent. This is why so many people feel overwhelmed. They treat every emotional impulse as an emergency. Not every thought deserves attention. Not every feeling requires action. Not every situation demands response. When my cousin began practicing pausing before replying, he didn't change his environment. His job stayed demanding. The emails kept coming. Deadlines remained. What changed was the tempo of his reaction. Emails waited 5 minutes before answers. Criticism was written down before being addressed. Assumptions were questioned instead of believed. Gradually, something surprising happened. The same workplace felt calmer. Nothing outside had changed, but internally, everything had. This is the paradox. A quiet mind does not require a quiet world. It requires internal stability. Think of the ocean. The surface can be chaotic. Waves crashing, wind howling, storms forming. But deep below it is still. Most people live at the surface of their minds. Every wave moves them, every gust shifts them, every ripple becomes drama. And a powerful mind learns to sink deeper, not to escape reality, but to stabilize within it. Calm is depth. Noise lives at the surface. And here is something essential. Calm is not suppression. A quiet mind does not deny anger. It does not deny frustration. It does not pretend everything is fine. It acknowledges the feeling without surrendering control to it. That is emotional maturity. Emotional maturity is not measured by how little you feel, and it is measured by how well you manage what you feel. When you allow the world to dictate your internal state, you give away power. When you choose your internal state despite the world, you build power. There is a difference between being informed and being invaded. The modern world invades constantly, through screens, through opinions, through expectations. But invasion requires participation. If you consume everything instantly, respond instantly, defend instantly, your mind never rests. Stillness is not found. It is created. And creation requires discipline. A quiet mind is not a personality trait. It is a trained response. It is built in small moments, when you don't reply immediately, when you don't explain yourself unnecessarily, when you don't assume the worst, when you breathe instead of react. Those moments seem small. They are not. They compound. Because each time you pause, you reinforce a powerful identity. I am not my impulse. And once that belief strengthens, something subtle changes. You stop reacting automatically, or you start choosing deliberately. You begin asking, is this urgent? Is this personal? Is this worth my peace? Most things are not. The world benefits from urgency. Your mind benefits from clarity, and clarity comes from slowing down internally, even when everything externally moves fast. So here is the shift I want you to begin practicing today. Stop trying to quiet the world. Start learning how to quiet yourself. You cannot control headlines. You cannot control opinions. You cannot control other people's emotions. But you can control the speed of your response. And in that control lies real power. The world will remain loud. Your mind doesn't have to be. Chapter 2. The space between stimulus and response. Between what happens to you and how you respond to it, there is a space. Most people never see it. They live as if life is automatic. Something happens. They react. Someone speaks. They respond immediately. An emotion appears. They obey it. But power lives in the pause. If Chapter 1 was about understanding that the world is loud, this chapter is about discovering the mechanism that keeps your mind quiet despite that noise. And the mechanism is space. Let's make this practical. Your phone vibrates. You feel a surge of anticipation or anxiety. You reach for it instantly. Stimulus, reaction, no space. Your boss sends a short message. We need to talk. Your heart rate increases. Your mind predicts disaster. You replay mistakes. Stimulus, reaction, no space. Your partner sounds distant. You assume something is wrong. You become defensive. Stimulus, reaction, no space. When there is no space, your nervous system leads. When there is space, your awareness leads. This distinction changes everything. Your brain evolved to prioritize safety, not clarity. It is constantly scanning for threats. In ancient times, that meant predators. Today, it means tone shifts, silence, criticism, uncertainty. Your brain reacts first. Your conscious mind catches up later. If you do not intentionally create space, your biology will decide for you. And biology prefers speed over wisdom. This is why calm is trained. Let me return briefly to my cousin. One of the biggest changes he made was something almost embarrassingly simple. He stopped answering immediately, not dramatically, not in a way that seemed passive-aggressive. He simply waited. When a stressful email arrived, he would stand up, get water, and come back. That small ritual created distance. Distance created clarity. Clarity reduced emotional distortion. He once told me, half the emails I thought were threatening were just neutral once I reread them 5 minutes later. 5 minutes changed the narrative, not because the world softened, but because space allowed interpretation to settle. This is the first principle of a quiet mind. Delay weakens distortion. Emotions spike quickly. They also fade quickly if you don't fuel them. When you react immediately, you amplify emotion. When you pause, you regulate it. So how do you build this space intentionally? And you use a simple 3-step structure. Pause. Name. Choose. Pause. This is physical first, not mental. Slow your breathing, unclench your jaw, relax your shoulders. The body must calm before the mind can. Even 3 slow breaths interrupt the automatic loop. Then name. Ask yourself, what am I feeling? Not what happened. What am I feeling? Anger, embarrassment, fear, insecurity. Labeling emotions reduces their intensity. Studies consistently show that when you name a feeling, and the brain shifts activity away from raw emotional centers and toward regulation areas. Emotion becomes data. And finally, choose. Now ask, what response aligns with who I want to be? Not what response feels good in this moment. Not what response proves I'm right. But what response reflects the identity I'm building? That question moves you from reaction to leadership. Let's make this concrete. Imagine someone interrupts you in a meeting. Immediate reaction might be irritation, maybe even subtle resentment. Pause. You breathe. Name. I feel disrespected. Choose. You decide to calmly finish your point instead of snapping back. The outcome is different, not because the interruption disappeared, but because your response changed the tone. The space between stimulus and response is small at first. It may feel unnatural, even forced. That's normal. You're interrupting years of conditioning. Most people were never taught to sit with emotion. So they were taught to discharge it. If angry, express. If anxious, fix. If uncomfortable, escape. But endurance builds strength. A quiet mind does not rush to eliminate discomfort. It tolerates it long enough to understand it. This tolerance is emotional endurance. And endurance is power. When you practice space consistently, something subtle happens. Triggers become predictable. You begin noticing patterns. You realize you react strongly to criticism, or to being ignored, or to losing control. And awareness weakens reactivity, because once you see the pattern, it no longer controls you blindly. My cousin eventually told me something that perfectly captures this shift. I still feel stress, he said, but now I feel it without becoming it. That is the goal. You will not eliminate emotion, you will separate from it. There is a difference between saying, I am anxious, and saying, I feel anxiety. One defines identity, the other describes experience. Space allows that shift. Without space, emotion fuses with identity. With space, emotion passes through identity. And here is the deeper truth. Every time you create space, you reinforce self-trust. You prove to yourself that you are capable of restraint. Restraint builds confidence. Not loud confidence, not dominant confidence. Quiet confidence. The kind that doesn't need to react to every comment. The kind that doesn't need to win every argument. The kind that stays grounded when others escalate. The world may remain fast. Your nervous system may still spike occasionally. But when you train the pause, you slow your internal tempo, and tempo determines tone. Fast tempo creates tension. Measured tempo creates control. So today, begin small. Before replying to the next message, pause. Before defending yourself, pause. Before assuming the worst, pause. 3 seconds. That is enough to begin, because in those 3 seconds, you reclaim authorship. You stop being pushed, you start choosing, and once you realize that choice exists, you're no longer powerless. You're practicing the space where power lives. In the next chapter, we'll explore why you react so quickly in the first place, and how understanding your triggers weakens their hold on you. For now, Remember this: stimulus is inevitable. Reaction is optional. The space between them is yours. Chapter 3. Why you react so fast. Before you can master calm, you must understand your reactivity, because you are not reacting randomly. You are reacting predictably, and predictable reactions can be trained. Most people believe they react quickly because they are emotional, sensitive, impatient, or stressed. But that is only part of the story. The deeper reason is biological. Your brain is designed for survival, not serenity. Thousands of years ago, speed meant safety. As if you hesitated too long in front of danger, you didn't survive. So your nervous system evolved to prioritize immediate reaction over thoughtful evaluation. Today, there are no predators chasing you, but your brain still reacts as if there are. A short email feels like rejection. A delayed reply feels like abandonment. A disagreement feels like a threat to identity. Your body responds the same way it would to physical danger. Heart rate rises, muscles tighten, breathing shortens. And before logic enters the room, emotion has already taken control. This is why you react so fast, not because you are weak, because you are wired. But wiring is not destiny. Let's look deeper. There are 3 major drivers behind fast reactions: threat to safety, threat to belonging, threat to identity. Physical safety is rarely at risk in modern life, but psychological safety is constantly challenged. When someone criticizes you, your brain interprets it as social rejection. Yet when someone ignores you, your brain interprets it as exclusion. When someone questions your opinion, your brain interprets it as status loss. These feel dangerous because historically, being excluded from a group reduced survival chances. So your brain learned: react quickly, defend immediately, protect identity at all costs. This is why calm feels unnatural at first. Calm requires overriding instinct, and instinct is loud. Let's personalize this. Think about the last time you reacted strongly. Was it really about the situation? Or was it about what that situation meant to you? A simple comment like, "You could have done better," might trigger one person mildly and another person intensely. Why? Because the second person may carry an old belief: I'm not enough. When that belief is touched, reaction intensifies. This is where triggers live. Triggers are not random. They are unexamined sensitivities, and they usually originate from past experiences. Maybe you grew up being criticized often. Maybe you were compared constantly. Maybe approval felt conditional. Now, even neutral feedback activates old emotional memory. Your body reacts before your rational mind has time to say, "This is different." Understanding this changes everything, because once you realize your reaction is not about this moment, but about accumulated meaning, you gain leverage. You stop fighting the world. You start understanding yourself. My cousin discovered this in a surprising way. He noticed he reacted most strongly when he felt dismissed in meetings. It wasn't the disagreement that upset him. It was the feeling of being overlooked. After reflecting, he realized something deeper. As the youngest sibling growing up, he often felt unheard in family conversations. That old sensitivity never fully disappeared. So when someone interrupted him at work, it activated more than the present moment. It activated history. And once he saw that pattern, something shifted. He didn't need to eliminate the feeling. He just needed to recognize it. Recognition weakens reactivity, because awareness separates you from the emotion. Instead of, "They're disrespecting me," it becomes, "I'm feeling the old fear of being dismissed." That subtle shift creates space, and space reduces intensity. Here's another powerful insight. Speed amplifies distortion. When you react immediately, you react from the most primitive part of your brain. When you pause, the more evolved parts engage. That is why Chapter 2 focused so heavily on space, because without space, triggers dominate. With space, patterns become visible, and once visible, they can be managed. So how do you identify your personal triggers? Ask yourself, when do I overreact? What kind of comments affect me most? What situations make my body tense quickly? Notice the theme. Is it criticism, rejection, loss of control? Is being misunderstood? Feeling inferior? There is always a pattern, and patterns are predictable. Once you see the pattern, you can prepare for it. Preparation weakens emotional surprise. If you know criticism triggers you, you can anticipate it and remind yourself, feedback is information, not identity. If you know silence triggers you, you can remind yourself, silence does not automatically mean rejection. Preparation builds calm in advance, and calm in advance prevents chaos in the moment. There is another layer here that most people miss. Fast reactions often protect ego, not truth. When someone challenges you, your instinct may be to prove yourself right, but proving yourself right is not always the same as being wise. A quiet mind prioritizes understanding over victory. Reactors seek to win. Leaders seek to understand. That distinction defines maturity. Imagine two people in disagreement. One interrupts, defends, escalates. The other listens, pauses, responds thoughtfully. Who appears stronger? And calm is interpreted as confidence. Reactivity is interpreted as insecurity, even if both feel intense emotion internally. This is why mastering reaction speed changes how others perceive you. You become stable, predictable in a good way, grounded, and stability builds trust. But remember, the goal is not to eliminate emotion. It is to lengthen the time between emotion and action. If your reaction used to take 0 seconds, aim for 3. If it used to take 3, aim for 5. Incremental growth compounds. My cousin didn't transform overnight. He simply extended the pause consistently. And over months, his identity shifted. From reactive employee to composed leader. Not because he felt less, because he responded slower. That is the power of understanding why you react. Once you see that your speed is biological, historical, and patterned, you stop judging yourself. And when you stop judging yourself, you gain clarity. Clarity leads to control. In the next chapter, we'll explore something even more powerful: how silence, often misunderstood as weakness, can become your greatest strategic advantage in a noisy world. For now, remember, you react fast because your brain wants safety. You slow down because you want strength. And strength is built in the seconds most people waste reacting. Chapter 4. Silence is a strategy. Most people are afraid of silence. They rush to fill it. They explain too much. They respond too quickly. They defend before being accused. Silence makes them uncomfortable, but silence is not emptiness. Silence is control. In a noisy world, the person who speaks less, but with intention, holds more power than the person who reacts to everything. Silence is misunderstood because we associate it with weakness. If you don't respond immediately, people assume you have nothing to say. If you don't defend yourself instantly, people assume you're guilty. If you don't argue back, people assume you lost. But that assumption only exists in reactive environments. In mature environments, silence signals stability. Let's be clear. Silence does not mean avoidance. It does not mean suppression. It does not mean passive aggression. Strategic silence means choosing when not to react. That choice changes dynamics instantly. Think about the last time someone criticized you unfairly. Maybe your instinct was to correct them immediately, to clarify, to prove them wrong. That impulse is ego protecting identity. But what happens if you pause and say nothing for a moment? The energy shifts. The other person becomes more aware of their tone. The room slows down. You appear grounded. Silence forces reflection. Reaction fuels escalation. This is why calm individuals often appear more powerful in conversations. And they don't rush. They don't over-explain. They don't chase approval. They allow space. And space changes perception. My cousin learned this in a subtle way. In meetings, he used to speak quickly, sometimes over-explaining his ideas to make sure he was understood. He believed clarity required more words. But over time, he noticed something interesting. The colleagues who spoke the least, but with precision, commanded more attention. They paused before answering questions. They allowed silence to exist after someone finished speaking. They didn't fill every gap. So he experimented. Instead of jumping in immediately, he waited 3 seconds before responding. Instead of defending instantly, he asked one clarifying question. Instead of over-explaining, he stated his point once and stopped. The effect was immediate. People listened more closely. Interruptions decreased. Conversations felt slower, but stronger. He told me later, "Sir, I realized I was talking fast because I was anxious. When I slowed down, I felt more confident." That is the paradox. Silence builds confidence, not because it eliminates uncertainty, but because it demonstrates self-trust. When you rush to respond, you signal nervousness. When you pause comfortably, you signal control. Control is calming, and calming is powerful. There's another layer here. Silence protects your emotional energy. Not every comment deserves your reply. Not every opinion requires your correction. Not every misunderstanding must be resolved immediately. In fact, over-engaging drains authority. When you explain too much, you appear uncertain. When you defend everything, you appear insecure. When you react to every provocation, you appear unstable. A quiet mind understands something crucial. Attention is currency. Where you place it determines your internal state. If you give attention to every criticism, you multiply stress. And if you give attention selectively, you maintain clarity. Silence is selective attention in action. It says, "This does not require my energy." And that sentence alone creates peace. But silence requires discipline. Because your ego wants to respond, it wants to correct, it wants to prove, it wants to win. Winning the moment often costs long-term stability. Let's look at a simple scenario. Someone makes a subtle, sarcastic remark about your performance. You feel irritation rise. And you could respond sharply. Or you could pause, make eye contact, and simply continue calmly. That calm continuation often neutralizes the tension faster than confrontation. Why? Because emotional escalation requires participation. If you refuse participation, the escalation collapses. This is why silence can be strategic in conflict. It interrupts the emotional rhythm. Emotion thrives on speed. Calm disrupts speed. And disruption resets the interaction. There is also power in unanswered criticism. Sometimes silence allows people to hear themselves. When you don't immediately argue, they may soften their tone. When you don't fight back, they may reconsider. When you remain composed, they may feel the imbalance. But silence must come from strength, not fear. If you are silent because you feel small, it breeds resentment. If you are silent because you are choosing restraint, it breeds confidence. The difference is internal posture. Ask yourself, am I silent because I'm intimidated, or because I don't need to react? One shrinks you, the other strengthens you. A quiet mind does not avoid difficult conversations. It chooses the right moment for them. Timing matters. Responding in the heat of emotion rarely produces clarity. Responding after reflection often produces resolution. Silence creates that reflection. Think of silence as emotional oxygen. Without oxygen, conversations suffocate. Without pause, communication becomes chaotic. And chaos is loud. The world is loud enough. You do not need to add to it. In fact, your ability to remain calm while others rush is what distinguishes you. When others argue, you observe. When others interrupt, you wait. When others escalate, you stabilize. This does not make you passive. It makes you composed, and composition commands respect. Over time, something remarkable happens. People begin adjusting their tone around you. They slow down when speaking to you. They become more measured. Because your calm regulates the environment. Calm is contagious. So just as panic spreads, so does stability. When you embody silence strategically, you influence without dominating. And that influence is subtle, but powerful. So the next time you feel the urge to respond immediately, try this. Pause. Let the silence exist. Feel the discomfort. And notice that nothing catastrophic happens. You are still standing. You are still in control. You are still steady. Silence is not absence. It is strength under discipline. In the next chapter, we will explore how to detach from other people's opinions without becoming indifferent or disconnected. For now, remember, you do not need to speak to prove power. Sometimes your calm presence says more than any argument ever could. Chapter 5. Detach from other people's opinions. One of the loudest sources of noise in your life is not traffic. It is not news. It is not deadlines. It is other people's opinions. What they think, what they say, what they imply, what they might be thinking. For many people, the mind is not loud because of events. It is loud because of imagined judgment. You replay conversations. You reanalyze facial expressions. You interpret tone shifts. You predict criticism before it happens. And slowly, without realizing it, you begin living in reaction to invisible audiences. But here is something you must understand. Other people's opinions are reflections of their perspective, not definitions of your identity. Yet most minds treat opinions as verdicts. Why? Because belonging feels like safety. Approval feels like stability. Rejection feels like danger. Your nervous system is wired to care about social acceptance. Thousands of years ago, being excluded from a tribe meant vulnerability. So today, even subtle disapproval feels threatening. A short reply feels cold. A neutral expression feels critical. Silence feels suspicious. But not every opinion deserves emotional entry into your mind. There is a difference between listening and absorbing. Listening is selective. Absorbing is automatic. A quiet mind learns to filter. Let me bring this back to something personal. After my cousin became more aware of his triggers, he noticed something else. He was constantly trying to predict what others thought about him. Before meetings, he would imagine how colleagues perceived him. After presentations, he would mentally scan faces, searching for approval. It was exhausting, and here's the truth. Most of those imagined judgments never existed. He wasn't reacting to reality. He was reacting to interpretation. One evening, he said something that revealed the shift in his thinking. I realized I was giving people mental authority over me without them even asking for it. That sentence matters. Because most noise comes from granting authority too freely. You assume someone's opinion is accurate. You assume someone's tone reveals truth. You assume someone's silence means something personal. But assumptions are rarely facts. To detach from opinions, you must build a filter. Before absorbing feedback, ask 3 questions. Is it true? Is it useful? Is it mine to carry? Is it true? Not emotionally true, not socially loud, factually true. If someone says, "You're terrible at this," is that objectively accurate? Or is it frustration speaking? Truth withstands scrutiny. Emotion rarely does. Is it useful? Even if criticism is partly true, is it constructive? Does it help you grow? Or is it just projection? Not all feedback improves you. Some feedback reveals more about the speaker than the subject. And finally, is it mine to carry? Some comments belong to other people's insecurities. Some judgments belong to other people's expectations. Some criticisms belong to other people's unresolved frustrations. You are not required to carry what does not belong to you. This filter creates distance. Distance protects clarity, because when you internalize every opinion, you fracture your identity. You begin adjusting yourself constantly, speaking differently around certain people, dressing differently for approval, thinking differently to avoid criticism, and slowly, your internal voice becomes quieter than external voices. That is when noise wins. A quiet mind has a stable center. It listens, but it does not bend automatically. It considers, but it does not surrender instantly. Detachment does not mean indifference. It means stability. You can care about growth without craving approval. You can value feedback without depending on praise. You can improve without shrinking. This is emotional independence. And independence reduces noise dramatically. Let's explore something uncomfortable. Many people overreact to opinions because their identity is externally anchored. If someone praises them, they feel strong. If someone criticizes them, they feel small. That means identity is fluctuating based on external signals. A quiet mind anchors identity internally. It asks, who am I choosing to be? Not, who are they deciding I am? This shift is subtle, but powerful. My cousin eventually noticed that when he stopped obsessing over how he was perceived, he performed better. He focused more on preparation than on impression, more on substance than on appearance. Ironically, when he detached from seeking approval, respect increased, because stability attracts trust. People are drawn to those who are not constantly adjusting themselves to fit expectations, but detachment requires practice. The next time you feel the urge to analyze someone's tone or expression, pause. Ask, what evidence do I actually have? Not imagined evidence, not emotional inference, actual evidence. Most of the time, you will discover you are filling gaps with fear, and fear is loud. Clarity is quiet. Another helpful reframe is this: people think about you far less than you think they do. Most individuals are absorbed in their own concerns, insecurities, and pressures. Their reactions are often reflections of their internal state, not commentary on your worth. Understanding this reduces personalization, and personalization fuels emotional intensity. When you detach, you conserve energy. Energy that can be used for growth instead of defense. Energy that can be used for reflection instead of rumination. Energy that strengthens your center instead of scattering it. A quiet mind is not one that avoids opinions. It is one that evaluates them without surrendering stability. In the next chapter, we'll go deeper into your internal dialogue, the voice inside that can be louder than any external critic. Because sometimes, the harshest opinions are not coming from others, they are coming from you. For now, remember this: other people's opinions are information, not identity. You can listen without absorbing. You can consider without collapsing, and you can remain steady, even when the world evaluates you. Chapter 6. Control your inner dialogue. If the world is loud, and other people are loud, there is something even louder: your own mind. You can escape noise outside. You can mute notifications. You can leave conversations, but you cannot walk away from your internal voice. And for many people, that voice is relentless. It replays mistakes. It predicts failure. It magnifies small problems. It questions your worth. Even in silence, the mind keeps talking. And this is where calm either strengthens or collapses. Because external noise is manageable, internal noise follows you everywhere. The truth is simple. Most suffering is not created by events. It is created by interpretation repeated internally. You miss one deadline, the mind says, you're falling behind. Someone corrects you, the mind says, they don't respect you. You make a small mistake, the mind says, this is who you are. Notice the pattern. The inner voice rarely describes events neutrally. It escalates. It generalizes. It personalizes. Psychologists call this cognitive distortion, catastrophizing, mind reading, overgeneralizing, black and white thinking. The loud mind jumps to extreme conclusions. The quiet mind slows interpretation. Let me share something personal again. During one stressful period, my cousin didn't just react to emails. He reacted to his own thoughts. After a long day, so he would lie in bed replaying conversations. I should have said that differently. They probably think I'm incompetent. I'm not cut out for this. Nothing new was happening, but his mind was recreating stress internally. And here's the dangerous part. The brain doesn't fully distinguish between real events and vividly imagined ones. When you replay failure mentally, your body responds as if it's happening again. Heart rate shifts, muscles tighten, stress hormones release, while your own thoughts become the noise. The turning point for him wasn't silencing thoughts, it was questioning them. He began asking, is this thought a fact or a fear? That question disrupted the spiral. You must understand something critical. Your thoughts are not commands, they are suggestions. But most people treat them as truth. If the mind says, you're failing, they believe it. If the mind says, this will go wrong, they accept it. If the mind says, they don't like you, they react accordingly. A quiet mind does not eliminate thoughts, it evaluates them. Here's a simple practice. When a stressful thought appears, don't fight it. Instead, rephrase it. Instead of, I'm terrible at this. Try, I'm learning this. Instead of, this will fail. Try, this might be challenging, but I can handle it. Instead of, they're judging me. Try, I don't have enough information to assume that. Notice the difference. You are not pretending everything is perfect. You are removing exaggeration. The loud mind exaggerates. The quiet mind reframes. Reframing is not denial. It is accuracy. Accuracy calms the nervous system because clarity reduces imagined danger. There's another subtle shift that changes everything. Stop saying, I am anxious. Start saying, I feel anxiety. One defines you, the other describes a temporary state. Identity-based language amplifies noise. Experience-based language reduces it. My cousin once told me, the moment I realized I could talk back to my thoughts was the moment I felt less trapped. Talk back, not aggressively, but rationally. If your mind says you embarrassed yourself, ask, what evidence supports that? What evidence contradicts it? What would I say to a friend in this situation? That last question is powerful. You are often kinder to others than to yourself. Why? Because your internal critic believes harshness equals improvement. But research consistently shows the opposite. Self-compassion improves resilience. Self-criticism increases anxiety. A quiet mind speaks firmly, not cruelly. Firm means accountable. Cruel means destructive. There is a difference. Another useful practice is time perspective. Ask yourself, will this matter in a week, a month, a year? Most internal catastrophes dissolve under time distance. But when you live inside the moment emotionally, everything feels permanent. The quiet mind zooms out. Zooming out shrinks intensity. Think about the difference between holding your phone 1 inch from your face and holding it at arm's length. Perspective changes clarity. Your thoughts need distance. Distance reduces distortion. And the more you practice this, the less automatic your internal negativity becomes. Over time, you begin noticing patterns. Maybe you catastrophize before presentations. Maybe you assume rejection in silence. Maybe you predict failure when starting something new. Patterns are manageable. Unexamined thoughts are not. My cousin didn't eliminate stress completely, but he stopped believing every negative thought immediately. And that reduced his internal noise more than any external change ever could. This is important. You can control external inputs partially. You can control internal interpretation significantly. That is where real power lives. If the world criticizes you and your mind joins the attack, you suffer twice. If the world criticizes you and your mind remains stable, you suffer once, and briefly. Your inner dialogue determines duration. A loud inner voice extends pain, and a regulated inner voice shortens it. So here is the discipline. Catch the thought, question the thought, reframe the thought, not once, repeatedly, until evaluation becomes natural. Because once your inner voice becomes calmer, the world loses much of its power over you. In the next chapter, we'll explore something deeper: how to build emotional endurance. The ability to sit with discomfort without rushing to escape it. For now, remember, your thoughts are tools, not truths, and you are the one holding them. Chapter 7. Train emotional endurance. Most people don't actually want calm, they want comfort, and those are not the same thing. Comfort avoids discomfort. Calm survives discomfort. This is where many attempts at inner peace fail. When anxiety appears, people distract themselves. When stress rises, they scroll. When tension builds, they escape. Avoidance feels like relief. But relief is temporary, and temporary relief trains fragility. If you want a quiet mind in a noisy world, you must build something stronger than avoidance. You must build emotional endurance. Emotional endurance is the ability to feel discomfort without rushing to eliminate it, not suppressing it, not dramatizing it, not reacting to it, just staying with it. That sounds simple. It is not easy because your nervous system is wired to reduce discomfort quickly. If something feels unpleasant, your brain says, fix it, escape it, control it. But not all discomfort needs fixing, because some discomfort needs witnessing. Let's return again to something personal. There was a period when my cousin began practicing pause consistently, but he still felt waves of anxiety before important meetings. The difference was this: instead of trying to make the anxiety disappear, he started letting it exist. He would sit in his car before walking into the office. He would notice the tightness in his chest. He would breathe slowly. And instead of saying, "This needs to stop," he would say, "This is just activation." That shift changed everything. He stopped fighting the feeling, and when you stop fighting a feeling, it often softens on its own. Here is a powerful truth: resistance amplifies intensity, acceptance reduces it. When you resist anxiety, you create anxiety about anxiety. When you resist discomfort, you create tension about tension. But when you allow a feeling to exist without escalation, it peaks and then declines. Emotions are waves. They rise, they crest, they fall. But only if you don't keep feeding them. Emotional endurance is learning to surf the wave instead of drowning in it. Think about this. The first time you enter cold water, your body shocks. Your instinct is to jump out. But if you stay still for a moment, your system adjusts. The water doesn't warm up. You adapt. That is endurance. The same principle applies emotionally. The first seconds of discomfort feel intense. But intensity is not danger. Intensity is sensation, and sensation can be tolerated. Most people overestimate how unbearable their feelings are because they rarely test their capacity. They escape too quickly. So the brain learns discomfort is dangerous. When you stay with discomfort calmly, you teach your brain a new lesson. Discomfort is survivable. That lesson builds strength. Let's break this into something practical. The next time you feel a surge of anxiety, frustration, or embarrassment, do this. Pause. Instead of distracting yourself, observe. Where is the feeling in your body? Chest, stomach, throat. Describe it. Tight, heavy, warm, sharp. Notice what happens. When you describe a sensation, you move from emotional overwhelm to mindful awareness. Awareness reduces fear. Fear fuels noise. There is another layer here. Emotional endurance builds self-trust. When you know you can survive uncomfortable feelings, you stop fearing them. And when you stop fearing your emotions, they lose control over you. My cousin once said, "I used to think anxiety meant something was wrong. Now I see it as energy I can handle." That reframe is powerful. Energy is manageable. Threat feels catastrophic. The quiet mind reclassifies sensations. Instead of, "I can't handle this," it becomes, "This is uncomfortable, but temporary." That subtle difference builds resilience. Now let's talk about something deeper. Avoidance shrinks your world. If you avoid discomfort consistently, you begin avoiding situations that might trigger it. You avoid speaking up. You avoid new opportunities. You avoid difficult conversations. Life becomes smaller. Endurance expands your world. When you know you can handle discomfort, you take action despite it. And action builds confidence. Confidence reduces anxiety. So ironically, sitting with discomfort today reduces discomfort tomorrow. Endurance compounds, but endurance must be practiced deliberately. And start small. Stay in uncomfortable silence for 5 extra seconds. Hold eye contact slightly longer. Resist checking your phone during mild anxiety. Tiny exposures. Each time you endure without reacting, you reinforce identity. I can handle this. That identity matters because a quiet mind is not one that avoids storms. It is one that stands steady during them. The world will remain unpredictable. Deadlines will exist. Conflict will arise. Uncertainty will appear. You cannot remove discomfort from life, but you can increase your tolerance for it. And tolerance reduces panic. Reduced panic creates clarity. Clarity produces calm. So here is your shift. Stop asking, "How do I eliminate this feeling?" Start asking, "How do I stay steady while feeling this?" That question builds strength. In the next chapter, we will bring everything together. We'll explore what it truly means to lead yourself first, and how a quiet mind becomes not just a coping strategy, but an identity. For now, remember, discomfort is not the enemy. Avoidance is. And the more you train yourself to stay instead of escape, the quieter your mind becomes. Chapter 8. Lead yourself first. Everything we've talked about, space, silence, detachment, reframing, endurance, leads to one core truth. If you cannot lead your own mind, the world will lead it for you. Leadership is usually imagined externally. Leading a team, leading a company, leading a family. But before any of that, there is self-leadership. And self-leadership begins in invisible moments. When you choose not to react. When you pause instead of escalate. Means when you tolerate discomfort instead of escaping it. When you question your thoughts instead of believing them blindly. Those small decisions shape identity. And identity shapes behavior automatically. A quiet mind is not a technique. It is a standard. It is the internal standard that says, "I do not surrender control to impulse." Most people live reactively because they have never consciously defined who they want to be under pressure. They wait until pressure arrives and then improvise. But improvisation under stress usually defaults to habit, and habit defaults to old patterns. If you want calm in a noisy world, you must decide in advance how you will behave when noise appears. That is leadership. Let me return one last time to my cousin. Months after he began practicing pause, reframing, silence, and endurance, something shifted in how others interacted with him. Colleagues started coming to him during tense moments. Why? Because he was steady. And he wasn't the loudest in the room. He wasn't the most aggressive. He wasn't the most dominant. He was the most composed. And composure builds trust. Trust builds influence. Influence builds authority, all without raising your voice. One evening, he said something that stayed with me. I stopped trying to control situations. I started controlling myself. That shift is everything. You cannot control outcomes completely. You cannot control other people's reactions. You cannot control external uncertainty, but you can control your internal posture. Posture determines presence. Presence determines impact. When your internal posture is stable, you become predictable in the best way, not boring. Grounded. People feel safe around stability, because stability reduces chaos. And in a world saturated with chaos, stability is rare. But self-leadership requires commitment. It requires asking yourself difficult questions. Who do I want to be when criticized? Who do I want to be when ignored? Who do I want to be when stressed? Who do I want to be when I fail? Not ideally, realistically, because leadership is tested under pressure, not comfort. If you only remain calm when things are easy, that is not strength. Strength appears when things are uncertain, and uncertainty is constant. There is another powerful truth here. Calm compounds. Every time you respond instead of react, you strengthen neural pathways associated with regulation. Every time you tolerate discomfort, you increase resilience. Every time you detach from unnecessary opinions, you reclaim energy. Small acts of control create large internal shifts over time, and eventually, calm stops feeling forced. It becomes natural, not because the world softened, but because your baseline stabilized. This is identity evolution. At first, you practice calm, then you choose calm, then you become calm, not emotionless, not detached from life, but grounded within it. There is a quiet confidence that comes from self-leadership. It doesn't seek validation constantly. It doesn't fear disagreement intensely. It doesn't panic at uncertainty, because it trusts itself. Self-trust is built through repeated restraint. Restraint builds dignity. Dignity builds presence, and presence is power without noise. Imagine walking into a tense room. Everyone is speaking quickly, voices slightly elevated, energy scattered. Now imagine you enter with measured breathing. Steady tone, deliberate words. You don't match the chaos, you regulate it. That is leadership, and it begins internally. The world will test you. It will challenge your ego. It will present discomfort. It will create urgency, but urgency does not require panic. Pressure does not require collapse. Noise does not require reaction. If you have trained your mind, you will notice something remarkable. Moments that once triggered you will feel manageable. Situations that once overwhelmed you will feel navigable. Conversations that once escalated will remain stable, not because you suppressed yourself, but because you led yourself. And here is the final shift. Stop asking how to control the world. Start asking how to control your response to it. Because response is the only domain that truly belongs to you. When you master that domain, everything changes. You stop chasing peace. You embody it. You stop reacting to noise. You filter it. And you stop fearing discomfort. You endure it. And slowly, steadily, quietly, you become the calm in the chaos, not loud, not dramatic, not attention-seeking, just stable. And in a noisy world, stability is rare power. In the next and final part, we will bring this journey together, personally. Because calm is not just a skill, it is a decision repeated daily, and the decision begins with you. Before we close, I want you to pause for a moment, not to analyze, not to judge yourself, just to notice. How does your mind feel right now compared to when you started? Maybe nothing dramatic changed, but maybe something subtle did. Maybe you feel slightly more aware, slightly more grounded, slightly less rushed, and that slightly matters. Because calm is not built in one breakthrough moment. It is built in small, repeated decisions. Throughout this journey, we didn't talk about escaping the world. We didn't talk about becoming emotionless. We talked about something more powerful. Leading yourself. Because you learned that the world is loud, but your mind doesn't have to be. You learned that space between stimulus and response is power. You learned why you react so fast, and how awareness slows you down. You learned that silence can be strength, that other people's opinions are information, not identity, that your inner dialogue can be trained, that discomfort can be endured, and that leadership begins within. But now comes the real part, application, because insight without practice fades. Let me personalize this one last time. When I think about my cousin now, I don't think about the stress he used to carry. I think about the shift. He still works in a demanding environment. He still receives criticism. He still faces pressure, but he no longer carries the noise home with him. He pauses before replying. He questions his thoughts. He allows silence. He tolerates discomfort. And the most powerful change, he trusts himself. And he once told me, I realized peace isn't something you find, it's something you protect. That sentence changed the way I see calm. Peace is not passive. It requires boundaries. It requires awareness. It requires discipline. And it requires choice. So let me ask you something directly. In the next difficult moment you face, and there will be one, who will you choose to be? Will you be the automatic reaction or the deliberate response? Will you be the voice of panic or the presence of stability? You do not need to master everything at once. Start small. For the next 72 hours, practice 3 things. Pause before replying to anything emotionally charged. Name your feeling instead of becoming it. Allow at least one moment of silence where you normally would rush to fill it. That's it, not perfection. Practice. Because the identity of a quiet mind is built through repetition, and repetition builds neural patterns. Neural patterns build behavior. Behavior builds character. Character builds presence. Presence builds power. You do not need to control the world. You do not need to eliminate stress. You do not need to silence every thought. You only need to control your response. That is enough. In a world addicted to urgency, your restraint will feel radical. In a culture that rewards loudness, your calm will feel unusual. But unusual is powerful. The most stable person in a chaotic room becomes the reference point. And over time, as your calm will not just protect you, it will influence others. People will slow down around you. Conversations will feel steadier. Conflict will de-escalate more easily, because calm regulates environments, and environments reflect leadership. Remember this. You're not trying to become indifferent. You're trying to become intentional. You're not trying to suppress emotion. You're trying to manage it. You're not trying to escape noise. You are learning to remain steady within it. That is maturity. That is strength. That is power without volume. And maybe, just maybe, the greatest advantage you can build in this century is not speed. It is steadiness. So the next time the world feels overwhelming, pause, breathe, create space, choose, and remind yourself the world may be loud, but your mind doesn't have to be. Thank you for spending this time here. If this resonated with you, carry one principle forward today. Just one. Because calm is not achieved in theory, but it is built in moments, and your next moment is waiting.